Hello, my name is Cement Saul, and this is how to play Forbidden Psalm. Forbidden Psalm is a skirmish scale game that can be played adversarially against your friends, cooperatively with your friends, maybe as an RPG, or by yourself solo. Besides all the miniatures and the rulebook, you'll be needing a tape measure and a set of D&D style dice. That is to say, a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, and a D20. To start exploring the ruins of Kyrgyz, you will first need to create a warband. A warband represents the group of unfortunate that you will be subjecting to the whims of the mad wizard Vriprix. Vriprix. A warband is usually 5 models, but to illustrate the process in brief, we will focus on one model. Let's get right to it with step 1. He'll be El Bobo the Baby Legs. Yeah, sure, Baby Legs El Bobo. Step 2 is picking out the stats for your model. Each player model in Forbidden Psalm has 4 stats: agility, presence, strength, and toughness. You can pick this set of numbers or this set of numbers to distribute amongst these 4 stats. 3103 is a more specialized spread, 2212 is a bit more evenly balanced. Plug in your stats and you will be able to get the 3 derived stats, which are health, equipment capacity, and movement speed, which are on the screen right now. Note those on the sheet and we move right on to the interesting bit: rolling flaws and feats. El Bobo here is apparently scared of monsters, but he also has a revolting appearance, making him harder to hit. For each of your models, you will roll 1 flaw and 1 feat. With that in mind, we can now buy him equipment, and because I am working with an existing miniature, I try and match up what he actually has on him for better immersion. We give him his light armor and a spear. Note that I have distributed his stats accordingly to better maximize his performance. Forbidden Psalm is a ruthless game, so do not be ashamed of a little munchkinry. Mind that different equipment is modified by different stats. Archers, for example, will use the presence stat a lot more. Note that you have 50 gold to spend at the start amongst your 5 models, and El Bobo has already spent 9 of the 50. So that's just about his fair share. At this stage we could make El Bobo a spellcaster, but I don't think he quite looks the part, so we'll call him finished. Baby Legs El Bobo is ready to go. To better demonstrate the caster rules, we will call in the Fiendish Stafford, another one of my Warband's models. To give Stafford the power of spellcasting, we pay 5 gold to officially turn him into a caster. This gives him 2 random scrolls, 1 from the clean scroll list and 1 from the unclean scroll list. These do count towards his equipment, so be mindful of making your casters low strength, cause they'll not be able to take anything but their spells. Fiendish Stafford gets the scrolls Obey and Bones, them damn bones. This will make him quite an adept monster manipulator. Mind that you can only ever have the 1 caster in your warband. Once you have done up the 5 models in this manner, you are ready to play the game. To further theme each of your matches, it is recommended to play with one of Forbidden Psalm's many scenarios. The book goes into further detail on these scenarios. All of them are designed to be played on an accessible 2x2 foot board. All of them will specify things like win conditions and which monsters to use, along with the terrain deployment style for the scenario. Once you have your terrain and your miniatures deployed and already, it's time to roll some dice. Forbidden Psalm uses a d20 to resolve most of the game's tests. Most tests, unless mentioned, will be against a difficulty rating of 12, meaning that you have to meet or beat 12 on the dice roll to pass the test, after you've added modifiers. A roll of 1 is always a failure and is called a fumble. A roll of 20 is always a success and is called a critical. Both these extreme results may have additional effects. We will get more into tests later as we describe the rules. Forbidden Psalm has an alternating activation system spread out across 6 game rounds. Each round starts with the initiative phase to determine which player activates a model first. Players will take turns activating with each of their models until all of their models have been activated, and then any monsters will act according to their monster behavior. The initiative roll is a simple contested roll of a d20, meaning that each player will roll a d20 and the higher result wins, rerolling ties. When you're playing solo, you do not need to make an initiative roll, you will always go before the monsters do. Whoever gets to activate first will choose a model to move and then do an action. Models must always move, or elect not to move, before performing an action. Once an action is performed, the model's activation ends. An action may be a ranged attack, a melee attack, using a piece of equipment or a feat, using a scroll to cast a spell, interacting with items or other models that are on the ground, and interacting with treasure or scenario elements. Finally, a model may also use their action to take a second move. Model movement in Forbidden Psalm starts at 5 inches and is modified by the model's agility, meaning they can get quite slow if their agility is bad enough. You can use your total movement value to move the model in any combination of directions. If a terrain piece is shorter than 1 inch high, you can move over it for free. If it is taller than that, then the model has to start climbing. When climbing, movement costs are doubled, so a 2-inch climb would need 4 inches of movement to resolve. A model may automatically jump across gaps up to 3 inches or less. If they go for anything longer, they need to make an agility test, meaning they need to meet 12 on a d20 roll after adding in their agility stat to the roll. If they fail this test, they will fall. They will take 1 damage per inch that they fall. If they fumble the roll, they get an injury on top. If a model ever moves off the edge of the table, they are taken out of the game, but they are treated as having survived. In Forbidden Psalm, combat may be ranged or close. A close combat attack may be performed as an action if the model is within 1 inch of another model. You pick a weapon and do a test with the d20. Again, we are looking for a total of 12 after all modifiers for the attack to succeed. Close combat is mutual, however, and in response your victim can also roll an attack, albeit at a -3 modifier. Both these attacks happen simultaneously and can both connect if they succeed. If you have another friendly model within 1 inch of the enemy you are attacking, this -3 to your reaction attack is removed, so it's best to keep your models together. If you fumble any of your attack rolls, that means the model has dropped their weapon. Place a token down to mark where the weapon is dropped. It will take an action to pick the weapon back up. You can make a ranged attack if the model has the appropriate weapon. Ranged attacks have a maximum range of 12 inches, and the attacker must be able to see their target. Any models within 1 inch of a hostile model cannot make a ranged attack. A ranged attack is an action, which results in a d20 test, again at DR12. If the attacker's target is obscured in any way, apply a -3 modifier to the ranged attack test. Regardless of whether or not the attack succeeds, you must mark off 1 ammo from the attacking model. If the model has no more ammo, they may no longer shoot. In ranged combat, there are no reaction attacks. When you successfully hit with any attack, then you get to roll the respective weapon's damage dice. Subtract the target's armor from the result of this roll, and whatever is left is deducted from the target's HP. Armor will always reduce damage unless a special rule says otherwise. If the test roll, the one on the d20, was a critical, you do not need to roll damage, you simply do the maximum possible amount. So for example, if your damage dice is a d6, you just do a 6. If your damage dice is a d8, you just do an 8. All models within 1 inch of enemy models are said to be in combat. If you want one of your models to be not in combat, You do this by moving them away. However, your opponent can choose to stop you. If they're human, they can choose. Mind you, monsters will always try to stop you if you try to leave combat. If they try to stop you, your opponent rolls a DR12 test against their model's agility. If they pass, the model successfully stops yours and you cannot move. If your opponent fails, your model can move, but it may not take an action. They're too busy trying to make it out safe. If your opponent fumbles, you can move and take an action. And if they roll a crit, they make an attack against you for free. Trying to leave combat in Forbidden Psalm can be quite risky. A model will sometimes be asked to roll for morale. All this is a presence test. If they fail, they immediately move as far as they can towards the nearest board edge. This can take them out of the game if they run off the table. On their next activation, they have to do the whole test again, running every time if they fail. If they succeed, they can stop testing and can act as normal that turn. There are 2 instances where models are made to take morale tests. This is when they are critically hit, or when they strike a downed enemy. When a model's HP hits or is less than 0, they are downed. The book says to lay them face up, but you can put a marker on the model side instead if your models are fragile. Now, if anything makes it so your downed models take any more damage, they are outright killed. You will lay them face down when this happens. A face down model represents a corpse, which will stay in the game for in-game purposes. However, for campaign purposes, they are considered functionally dead. Mind that attempting to kill another model like this will make the murdering model take a morale test. If your warband has a caster, and trust me, you will want a caster, they may use any of their scrolls to cast a spell. This is a DR12 presence check. Succeed and the spell goes off. You can use the scroll in this fashion as many times as you want. If you fail, however, you need to mark a tragedy on your caster's sheet. That's all for now. If you fail, you just mark a tragedy. On a fumble, you will immediately roll on the calamity table, adding any tragedies your caster has to the total, to a maximum modified result of 20. Calamities are bad, you do not want them to happen, but given how these rolls are structured, they eventually will. Now, Forbidden Psalm is quite a ruthless, random game, so to curb that a bit, your warband is given Omens to work with. These are once a scenario bonuses, of which you have access to 6. These will give you some direct control over your rolling. They are very powerful, and should be used sparingly but eagerly. Do not forget to use these. They will save you from a bad time. The core book of Forbidden Psalm comes with 11 monsters, designed to work with the game scenarios. They all have special rules that modify the way they act, but all follow a simple framework for their behavior. Monsters will always act after players. They will always beeline for the closest model that is not of the same type that they can see. This means that a disemboweled ghoul might attack another monster if they are the closest targets in range, but a disemboweled ghoul will not attack another disemboweled ghoul. If they cannot see anything, they will maybe stay put. It depends on the monster. If they can, you will roll a 2d6 and move the monster an equivalent number of inches towards the target. If they make it to within an inch, they're now in combat and will always choose to fight their target. Provided that you manage to kill a monster in the first place, you will lay its model down to represent the corpse. One of your models may then take an action to harvest from the monster's corpse, making a DR12 presence test. If they succeed, remove the monster's corpse and gain an organ, which is worth 5 gold. That is a considerable amount in the campaign. The organ, however, will take up an equipment slot on the model that picks it up. If you fail the presence test at harvesting, the model is overwhelmed and must make a morale save. This can lead to them running off the board. At the end of the game, any surviving downed models must pass a death save when the scenario finishes. This is a DR6 toughness test, so it's relatively easy to pass, but you never know with a D20. If they pass, they will make it back alive but are permanently injured and must roll on the injury table. If they fail, they are dead. If the test is a critical success, they learn something from the horrible experience. Along with a new injury, they will also roll a new feat. The warband then gains experience depending on their actions in the game that just resolved, as detailed further in the book. Basically, anything they did that was worthwhile gets you experience. You can spend experience points to improve your model's abilities, remove injuries, reroll flaws, gain new feats, or even bring back members from the dead. And speaking of the dead, recruiting new replacement models is free, but you can only have up to 5 models max. New members are generated as normal, like in the start of the campaign, however they do not come with any equipment. You can, however, pull your old equipment from your dead models in the next phase, which is the equipment management phase. Here you can shuffle around your things, or you can buy totally new ones. Now you can buy and sell any extra equipment at this point, and see, usually you're buying and selling to your benefactor, Riprix, the Mad Wizard, but you can also choose to buy and sell at the Merchant. The Merchant will give much better deals than Riprix, but whenever you deal with him, you must roll a dice. And on a 1, Riprix catches you, and there will be consequences to that. And that'll cover most of what you need to know to get started with Forbidden Psalm. Now you'll notice I have included some of the campaign steps in this tutorial, and that is because I believe this game runs the best with a campaign. As you play through the scenarios, you will every so often find another verse of the Forbidden Psalm. If at any point you get 5 of them, your warband can sell that to Riprix, gain 1000 gold, and retire. So this is a finishable game. If that ever happens, I assume you'll just go ahead and roll up a brand new warband. Then maybe give the expansion books a go. But we'll get to those at a later time. Hello all and welcome to the end of the video. Today I would like to thank Sable Badger for providing me with some very nice STL files for use on the channel. You will be seeing a lot more of their designs in future videos. I would also like to thank my patrons in the Laser Cultist tier, Brandon Fraley, Gregory Gonzalez, John Hammer, Old Paw, and Russell Brown. Thank you all very much for watching. Until next time.